Dude, that trumpet was going hard right there. He's still going. Listen to him. Man, there's some very talented musicians in the jazz scene. Oh man, I could go on for. We should do maybe a full episode dedicated to just smooth jazz, because that's me. If you've met me outside of this podcast, I usually introduce myself like, "Hey, my name's Blake. I like whiskey and I like smooth jazz, and now cigars." So they're kind of the same family. And then I shake your hand. Good to meet you, sir. But that's me, man. I love that stuff. It's just like an up-class ritual behind it. Smooth jazz is awesome. Excellent musicians. A lot of creators. A lot of freestyle. It's just cool. I like smooth jazz. It's like controlled chaos, if you've heard me talk about that before. But welcome back to another episode of YCF. My name is Blake, your host of this podcast. And also, we just so happen to be the foundation of your content creation. So thanks for tuning in. If you've listened to this, drop some comments, say hello, say what's up. Let us know what you're working on, what kind of projects you got going on, what kind of content you create. We would love to learn from you. If this has been beneficial for you, we'd love to hear it too. So I don't know how many. Mal, do you know how many listeners we have like on a Buzzsprout?
Not at the top of my head. I'd have to check.
I'd have to check it out. Yeah, if you want to check that out, let me know. Just feel free to interrupt me because I would like to know that too. Maybe it's like one. I know we have some views on YouTube though. That's great. But today I want to talk about something that's inevitable. It's inevitable in life, and it's inevitable, especially in the content creation space. It's inevitable when running a business. Anytime you're trying to do something, or it's only, you can avoid it, but it's inevitable in life. We're talking about criticism. If you're doing any type of content on the internet or any type of artistic stuff, like if I paint a painting and I show that to people, I am instantly open. I'm instantly susceptible to criticism. Someone's going to like not see what I saw. Someone's going to make fun of the way I painted someone's hand or whatever. If I write a book, if I write a story, if I have an opinion, if you have anything, criticism will always be there. And a lot of it is just based off of opinion. So we're going to talk about that. There's just a lot of ways to bake a cake in the content realms, and like what's best and how many times you should post and when you should do jumping jacks while you post. And everyone's got like this little secret formula, this algorithm. And that's great. There's a lot of things that work. And if something's working for you, please stick to that. Add to it. And don't be afraid to take away from it, right? If you're getting a ton of criticism, you're probably onto something, depending on who the criticism's coming from. If it's coming from your like wife and kids and like the people that matter in your life, maybe heed that a little bit more. But if the criticism is coming from outsiders that don't have all the pieces or that don't have your vision, right? Be very wary on where this criticism comes from. Be very wary about advice as well. So we'll talk about that later. But criticism, you're going to get it. It's going to come to you if you're on the internet. If you say you like the color blue, some chode on the internet's going to be like, green's better. Like they're going to have a problem with that, right? The moment you declare which side of the fence you're on, a fence sitter or someone on the opposite side of the fence, they're going to come at you. They're going to throw some fucking shit at you either way. So we talk about, the processes behind content creation, how you can build some systems and some factory, very much of the analogy of the factory line. How do you assemble this? What kind of team, how often do you record? When does it, we've talked about all of that on the podcast, but we've never really addressed the criticism part, like the post after the content is posted and it's up there for the internet to grab onto or not grab onto. Let's talk about that. So, if you are posting content online and you're getting criticized for that in the form of comments, dislikes, whatever, that's good. And it's usually only bad if it's like purely dislikes, and that's kind of like a YouTube thing. I think one of the most disliked videos of all time was like a Captain Marvel or some woke Disney bullshit was like one of the most disliked videos of all time. I'd have to check in on that. It's been a minute, but there's a couple like Call of Duty video game trailers or something, or game trailers, like people that they're all surrounding like pop culture. They're the most disliked things on YouTube. Maybe Mal can look that up. Like, what's the most disliked thing?
I have it.
You got it?
YouTube Rewind 2018 is the single most disliked YouTube video on YouTube. Over 19 million dislikes.
What is YouTube Rewind though?
I think it's like the year's most popular songs mashed into one like mix. I think is what it is. Man. There might be some video aspects in there, but I think it's just like the year's songs mashed into one mix.
Yeah, just the one hodgepodge.
Yeah.
And they dislike that. That's the most disliked thing on YouTube.
According to the Googs, yeah.
Cool. So like that, if you're doing something like that, maybe I would avoid that if it's this overwhelmingly disliked by the community. I don't think the algorithm does anything for that. But actually, I stand corrected. I'm going to correct myself here because the algorithm just doesn't matter. If it's grabbing attention, whether people like it or dislike it, it doesn't fucking matter. Your shit is getting traction. If you have more dislikes than likes, that's good for the algorithm. It might not be the best for like keeping and retaining a base of listeners or viewers, but yeah, it's definitely good for the algorithm. It's catching its traction. Anytime anybody interacts with you, think about it. So I've dropped a lot of content as a Twitch streamer, as doing YouTube and video game stuff for YouTube, and then also doing content. Like I'm on 3 different podcasts. If you haven't known, I run an Authentic Identity podcast with Jared and Mitch. What up, boys? That's an awesome podcast, one of my favorite. And then we talk about this podcast with Your Content Factory. And then I have a gaming-related podcast with some bros. And we love rocking the boat. And with that comes a lot of fucking criticism. And it's so fun. Criticism is good. So there's criticism, and then there's like actual negativity or hate and stuff like that we'll dive into. Criticism is something that I think we have a bad stigma around. Criticism is wonderful. Criticism is the best thing you can do. And it's not anyone else's responsibility but your own to be able to withstand the criticism and to internalize it and actually work it and make it better. That's how you get better. So I thought I'd start out with some criticism quotes. The first off, this hit me hard. This is actually from Winston Churchill. Criticism, he says this. Let me see if I can make sure that I'm not missing half the quote. Okay. Yeah, criticism may not be agreeable, but it's necessary. It fulfills the same function as pain in the human body. It calls attention to an unhealthy state of things. I agree. Not always. Some criticism is due, some criticism is not due. That's the difference. I think that's the difference between criticism and then like, I don't know what to call it, hatred, dislike, or lack of criticism without context, I think is unmerited. If someone doesn't know your business, if someone doesn't know your vision or your dream or your creation, if they don't understand the vision, then they might criticize it, but it shouldn't mean anything to you, the individual or the creator. So it's very important to understand that criticism will come to you if you're creating content, no matter what it is, even if it's just a little old channel or a little old podcast about, Legos or some shit. You're going to get criticized. People are going to make fun of you. People are going to try and prod you, try to get a reaction. There's professional provocateurs out there that like something rubs them the wrong way. They've been having a bad day. And it gives them a small hit of dopamine to like throw something out there, especially if you feed back. So in the gaming community, we call it salt. We have people out there that are griefers, that are salt miners, that they play a video game just to make people mad. Like the bullies at school that are just picking up on some kid, like they're just giving people wedgies because whatever. Maybe they got a fetish or something. Like, I don't know. They're just weirdos. But if you're really going out of your way to make someone's day bad and you actually get satisfaction from that, yeah, you're a fucking loser. Sorry. But that stuff happens on the internet, right? There's no consequences for anything that happens on the internet. I mean, unless you're hacking FBI stuff and you're doing naughty things that you shouldn't do. There's a list, so I digress, but I should probably correct that. there's plenty of naughty stuff you can do on the internet and you can get in trouble for. You probably should stay away from. But as far as like commenting on posts and interacting with humans, there's no consequences. You can go into a Modern Warfare video game lobby. You can go into some place and you can just level out, just say all the racial slurs you want. You can criticize whoever you want, and there's no repercussions other than maybe like a slap on the wrist. They pull you out of that channel or the gaming. They ban you from the game. But there's no lasting consequence on the internet. So if somebody posts something dumb, I can go and say something about how I feel about that, and I can criticize whoever I want. I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's so needed. And if you can't handle the internet, first off, assess yourself. Be like, do I do this? Because like, if I go out of my way to comment on something, it's usually because it's negative. It's rubbed me the wrong way. But I've been shifting that recently. What if I took my positivity and put it towards the content that I like and the people and the creators that I like? It's crazy what happens back to you. It starts coming back tenfold. It's just that negative energy. You can put out negative energy or you can put out positive energy, and the universe will reciprocate it back to you. So with that said, you can kind of analyze yourself. You're like, man, if I see a post or if I see someone's opinion about XYZ on the internet and it makes me feel a certain way, yeah, right. So here I am consuming their content, and I've consumed so much. Now I feel obligated to create a post or a reply and put that in there in a negative way. So to me, I just don't think that's worth it. So what if you were to consume something that inspired you to create something positive and actually give, if you're there trying to help and give good criticism, that's a little bit different than the intentions behind it. So I love talking about criticism. I think context and intention are really important for this critique. If someone's critiquing you to make you feel bad and to make themselves feel better, that's a little bit different than someone critiquing you like a coach and like, hey, you threw the ball this way, adjust your arm and try this technique. And like, if you do this, it's going to cause problems. And like, there's a good way to do it in a bad way. So Winston Churchill's quote is great. There's another one here from Norman Vincent Peale. The trouble with most of us is that we would rather be ruined by praise than saved by criticism. And if you guys have followed me on the Authentic Identity podcast, I got to shout out just the podcast itself and then my barber Eli here in just a second. But if you've been on there, you've probably heard me say, this was my upbringing. I was ruined by praise. I could do no wrong. As long as I just did what they say, I grew up in a very religious household. And I think the praise and the expectations that I was held to ruined me. If I did what they wanted, I was praised to no end. I could do no wrong. I was the most righteous young man of the world in the entire world, right? And I think it ruined me. It leaves me searching for validation. So when I struggle with posting content sometimes, and there's a lot of it. Every time I open up Instagram or Facebook or YouTube, my ugly mug's up there. I'm just like, God damn it. What stupid thing am I saying now? Because on a podcast, it's really hard to capture if you've made content before, or if you've, your content's been posted like this, where you take a long form topic or subject and then it gets condensed down into medium and then short form content. Sometimes the editorial process, because someone has a different vision or different perspective than you, no matter how much training you do, no matter how much on brand things happen, there's sometimes a little bit disconnect in the meaning or the context. And so an editor will forget to add one more sentence or one more word or emphasize the certain thing. And so sometimes I'm saying, I know in the podcast I was saying something completely different, but the editor was emphasizing something because that's how they perceive it. So it's not good or bad. It's just what it is. And so I could be, my context could be missing. And so I'm very hypercritical of myself and being like, oh man, I could have said that better, or that could have been edited better. But really what it comes down to is me as the host of the podcast or the subject of the content. I'm like, I just need to be better, well-versed in speaking, saying less ums, getting more intentional, getting more correct information sometimes, right? So a lot of criticism has come my way in the form of interactions and things like that in the comment section. So number one thing, if we were to like pick a couple things to give the audience, if you're putting content out there and you're the face of it or you're attached to it in some way, you are subject to criticism, number one. Just accept that fact. It's unavoidable. We've had clients, we don't work with them anymore because we love them. They're awesome, but I think they just missed the mark in some places where they thought they were exempt from criticism or critique, and they would just be so defeated when somebody would wreck their opinion in the comments section, and then they tried to take it out on us and blame an editor for that stuff. So we don't jive no mo with that shit. So it's sometimes, I mean, the editor could frame something completely wrong. We're open to that criticism. But if you have an opinion and you're not aware that the internet will criticize the fuck out of you, you probably shouldn't do content if you can't handle a little bit of criticism, right? And the way I handle it is to take it in very small dosages. If they really understand me, if they're in my day-to-day life, if they're a client that I love, if there's somebody, those are the people that I'm open to criticism for, because I want to deliver a better experience, whether it's with the content or with the product or with how I show up in the friendship or relationship. I want to be criticized. I run a gaming community of quite a few cool dudes. They're very talented guys. They've all gotten they're what do you call it? Successful guys. They're not chumps. And we all share a hobby together. And I just had a good conversation with a guy today. The way I was showing up and the way I was setting some expectations just weren't jiving with the group and with a couple people. And so he had the balls to come to me as a homie and be open with some criticism. And I was open for it too. And he did it correctly, delivered it wonderfully. I know I've worked with some other people too here locally in St. George that we were, Jared and we run the AI podcast together. Even Mitch, we've had some professional tension and we've had some critiques for each other, and we take it on the chin and we just keep going, baby. That's it. That's all it is. So a lot of people are very defeated by criticism, and this has been a theme as of late. We're a company that we're growing. We're making some changes. And so I think we've had some criticism happen just because we got to get uncomfortable. We got to push the boundaries and we got to change some stuff. And that's just part of life. And so some of it's good. And I know there's some critique going on behind the scenes. I know it happens too on the content. I could go say something about aliens and then someone's going to have a problem with that, So we thought, as I was thinking about what I could talk about today, criticism came to mind. But it is so absolutely necessary. My advice, I've been doing a lot of content. Now, granted, it doesn't mean my content is good. It doesn't mean I'm like top-notch tier, like awesome person. I'm not some fucking content wizard yet. I think we're pretty fucking good at what we do, and we do a lot of it. And I'm saying the F word too much, so my dog is shaking because she knows that's a mean word. So that's my what's that? What we call her, our meter. If I'm getting too passionate or too intense, my dog will let me know. But we do a lot of content. We've done a lot more podcasts than most people because of the exponential curve, right? We do our podcasts. We've been doing multiple podcasts for a number of years. And so the amount of podcasts we do in a week is probably like 8 or 9 times more than an average podcaster, since they're just focusing on one. And so I say this coming from a lot of experience over a short amount of time. The criticism will come, and the way you can handle that, there's a couple methods here. So just know that's where I'm coming from. Is we're not preaching to you from this like great high and mighty throne. We've just been in the mix for a little bit. And the criticism, the way I handle it is taking it in very small bites, understanding who these people are on the internet, and then taking it in when I can, when I'm in the right mindset, but then giving gratitude towards the criticism, no matter how unmerited or unsolicited it is. No matter what it is, it's always, I try to lean as much gratitude into that as possible. Now, I'm not perfect. If I'm having a bad day, which all happens to us, If I'm off just a little bit with some frustration, then yeah, I could probably handle some criticism very wrongly. There's a time and a place, but if I'm getting just general negative comments on a YouTube video or a post or whatever, I always hit it with gratitude. Thank you so much for your reply. Thank you for going out of your way to post on this clip. I'm really appreciative that you have helped us boost the algorithm here. And there's sometimes like I've had people be like, man, what a waste of time. What a waste of comment. Like what a useless clip. What a useless idea. What this and that and the other. And I always just thank them. Hey, it was so useless. It was so stupid and useless to you. You let us know. Thank you for that. Thank you. You went out of your way to make this useless clip boosted by the algorithm. Can you believe that? What a nice guy. That's how I kind of frame it in my mind. What a nice guy. He knew that this clip was pretty bad. I mean, we've taken some moments from podcasts that were like, man, right. So the answer for us is we got to fix that on the training side, context wise, right? So if we have an hour podcast that we're editing and we're pulling clips out of this thing, we've kind of set the bar early at like 12 to 15 because we were focusing on a content release schedule of 2 posts per day, doing 4 podcasts a month with 2 posts per day. That's, 60 pieces of content every single day. I'm sorry, every single month. That's quite a bit of content to be extracting from a podcast. Now, if that podcast episode doesn't quite hit the mark, or maybe the guest or the host is off, or like maybe they just didn't discuss a variety of topics, expecting my editor to cut 15 clips out of that episode and have them all be like just bangers, like good clips, I think that's a little bit high mark. So what we've done is lower that quantity down to about 10 clips for every 60 minutes of podcasting. That's for an editor to think about. That doesn't always translate into a customer getting extra, right? Because it's all that's paid for time. But if you record a podcast with us for 60 minutes or more, you should get 10 clips minimum, maybe 12. If it's a real good one and we have an awesome like celebrity or someone, a guest that's just like over the moon, we're over the moon about it, we'll probably cut more just for the hell of it. So kind of walking that back, if a clip has gone out from Blueform Media and it's been a little lackluster, we've since fixed that. But the critiques and the comments in the clips, they really help me out. So here is somebody on the internet, these poor people. What a nice guy. This poor man, he was sitting there probably pissed off with his life, and he's sitting there on the shitter. Because that's when people have time to comment, I've noticed. If I'm going to comment on something, it's because I'm sitting on the shit can. I don't know about you. Where do you guys put your comment? If you're going to comment on this clip, comment where you are. And I guarantee you, at least we have a couple of them that are like, I'm shitting on the shitter right now. Guarantee it. So he's probably there. He's on the shitter, and he's like, man, I just spent 60 seconds of my life wasted. I'll never get this back now. I've just spent this time on this clip that had no context. What a waste of time. So now he's inclined because he wasted 30, 40, 60 seconds, and now he's got to let us know. Man, what a waste of time. So what I do to that criticism is like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, look at the context of that clip, and like that context was missing. Like we have the podcaster was trying to say this, and we captured the wrong moment. So critique was taken. Yeah, we need to do better there. We should capture a better moment. And then also it's led multiple things like that. It was led to us adjusting the factory line, right? We came out the gate hot with so much quantity that it was impressive. But now we're like realizing, hey, we have this much quantity now. We still got that down. We have the system in place. Now let's shave just a little bit off and up that quality because the quality is really what keeps people coming. It's a little bit of both. You got to have quantity and you got to have quality. So we're just juggling that. But this individual, they come and say, hey, this clip sucked. And we're like, sweet, thank you. So I just approach it from a gratitude place. If I was to give you guys one thing to help you with the criticism, come at the criticism with gratitude. Be thankful for that shit. That's how you get better. We've gotten so soft as a society that no one can take criticism. And I was one of them. And some things, like, I'll be honest, like, I can only take so much criticism, right? Before it's counterproductive. So be very wary about who your criticism comes from. And if it's someone you don't know on the internet, just leave your emotions at the door. Read it. See if they're right. Okay, great point. Awesome. But either way, thank them. Thank you for boosting the algorithm on this post. I had one guy, I think it was on an authentic identity clip. He said, man, what a waste of time. Like, I can't believe this clip is like here or something like that. It was something to that effect. I'm trying to remember exactly what he said. Yeah, he said specifically, he's like, I can't believe YouTube put this in front of me. I never want to see this type of content again. And I was like, I'm like, thanks, man. Appreciate you boosting the algorithm. Hopefully YouTube doesn't see you've commented on this and then give you more of our shit. If you definitely, if you're tired of seeing content in your feed, here's some things you should not do. Definitely don't comment. Don't like it. Right? Don't comment for sure. Just scroll past it. The more attention that you give the content, the algorithms, from what I understand, are meant to give you more of that. Unless you specifically go into like a setting and say, I don't want to see more of this. If you spend time watching the clip fully, and then you spend time disagreeing with the clip, so you watch it again, and then you spend time watching it again so you can formulate a text or a chat or a fucking reply, a comment, and then you comment on it, the algorithm's like, damn, Peter, he really likes this stuff. And they'll just keep giving you more. So I had to explain to this guy, I was like, hey, thank you for the comment. Like, if you don't want to see stuff, you probably shouldn't comment on it. Like, the algorithm's not going to grab, it's going to grab it. So it was just very, very funny. It kind of reminded me too, like how many people like don't know just the basics of how the algorithm works. Like, why is this in my feed? I never want to see this again. If you comment that. So anyway, so some criticisms out there. And I don't want to appear like I can't handle criticism because I'm analyzing the criticism that we've gotten. I'm just bringing this up for your benefit as a listener, as someone who's thinking about doing content. If that's one of your hurdles, criticism, just stop caring. Nobody cares. There's 7, 8, whatever we're at, 9 billion. There's 100 billion people on the planet. Who cares for the number? There's a lot of people here. And none of us are that important to like please everybody. And like anybody gives a shit anyway, right? If I go out here and do a podcast, like this clip right now, probably nobody gives a shit about anyway. So like, go ahead, like comment on it. Please boost my algorithm. So getting the criticism too, I want to talk about that. And Mal, do you have our downloads yet for the YCF?
Since launch, since our first episode, it's like 59. 59
downloads in 3 months.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah.
We're definitely top downloads for sure.
No. So yeah, this podcast is pretty fucking boring. So there's some that number in and of itself is a criticism of our work.
Depending on how you internalize it, sure.
Shit. We've been doing this for 4 months and only 59 people have actually downloaded our podcast.
Hey,
episode.
At least we're going. Yeah.
And who knows, maybe this turns into something internal where we have to force our employees to listen to this. So they can work on it and listen to it. And so it's like, hey, this is an update and our new employee handbook. This is that. So we could this could be very well be an internal like podcast editing, stuff. So we'll see. But yeah, that in and of itself, the numbers tell you they're kind of a critique anyway. So it's like, is this really the best usage of our time? Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. But we like it. We enjoy it so far. And that's really all that matters. If you're starting your own content, do you enjoy it? Does it make you light up inside? Do you find a value of it? And like, if you can the more you can line up, like the first thing you should do is like, are you passionate about this? Like, does this feel in line with you? If the answer is yes, then you should keep doing it. You should do it. Then you should answer the question like, should I put money towards this? Can I get a return? Yes, no, maybe. And it's a gamble. But are you passionate about it, right? Is it a project that you want to continue? If XYZ happened, would you still do this? Would you still find time to make this happen? If something, something bad happens, Like, if you are so passionate about it, you would truly make time for it, is the point. If that's the answer, then yes, you should go into it. And if that's the answer, then yes, you should be able to handle criticism on the internet. It shouldn't be an issue for you, right? But if it is, hopefully this is somewhat helpful. But it comes to everybody. If you're on the internet, you're going to get criticized. So just be prepared. But yeah, how can you harness criticism though in a good way? Right? As soon as it goes back to that gratitude thing. As soon as I am grateful for the criticism, like I literally change my internal frequency about it. I'm like, man, that cuts me deep. I might have an emotional flare up for a second, be like, I'm mad, I'm angry, I'm sad, I'm disappointed. And then as soon as I start finding like, oh, who's to blame? Just curl those fingers back at you. It's your fault, right? If something is not up to snuff, if I wasn't clear about my vision, it's me. If my editor failed to grasp them, it's me. It goes back to, Jocko Willem, some deeper philosophies of extreme ownership. That's a great book. If it's your content, you're responsible for it, right? Obviously, if something with an editor needs to get fixed, get it fixed, so on and so forth. But that's how you can harness criticism and make it your own, is if you're thankful for it and you express that gratitude towards the individual. As soon as someone criticizes you, man, I think, your eyebrows are just a little too crazy, or like, yeah, you're this, that, and that. I'm like, dude, thanks for noticing. What's funny is like, people do stuff to get noticed. And like, we're always thinking that everyone's noticing us. It's not true at all. And so when it does happen, we're like, no, don't notice me. It's so weird. But even though we're conditioned to think everybody thinks about us anyway, like I could walk into a room and if I have a stain on my shirt, like I'm like, oh no, someone's going to see the stain on my shirt. And everyone's like doing the same thing. They're like, oh, are they going to see that are they going to see that I missed a hair on my mustache? And like, we're self-conscious, but everybody's self-conscious. So nobody's conscious of each other because they're all self-conscious. So that means you can literally run amok and no one's going to notice. So go make mistakes, go get criticized, go have fun, address it with gratitude and thankfulness, make it awesome. And like even today, this gratefulness thing has really helped me out. We've been having a pretty bad day today, me and Mal. And just a couple minutes ago before we hit record, I was not in this mental state of mind. I was not chipper, happy. I was not doing nothing. But a gratitude towards some criticism, gratitude towards the opportunity that I have to spit into this microphone, it will change your state of mind. So Mal's probably in there being like, dude, Blake was a different person just a minute ago. Yeah, I'm bipolar in that regard. I can go from low frequency to high frequency just because it takes a lot of time. And I faced a lot of criticism in my life, and I'm grateful for it because it's made me better, right? And hopefully your content will get better too. Criticism is needed. If you're holding back criticism too, because you're afraid of confrontation, you're weak. Speak, say something. If you're in a relationship and you're not being truthful when your partner does something that bugs you and you don't say nothing, that's you. That's on your fault. That's your fault. Now, if you hold it in and then explode on them and you can't communicate effectively, that's on you. Same thing with your content. If you're getting criticized, learn from it and be grateful for it, and then just get better. Even that one guy who goes out of his way to shit on your content, he's going to make you better regardless if you stick with it. So I love that. That's been on my mind a lot too, because we are getting some criticism, some flack, just from making some changes in the business. And I think a lot of it too, if I'm being honest, a lot of the criticism comes from speculation in my own mind, right? How does that happen? Oh, what are they going to think? And then I walk it down the trail. Like, if I do this, then so-and-so is going to say this, and then they're going to say that, and they're going to do this. And I'm just like going through this hypothetical situation that doesn't exist yet. But my subconscious doesn't know the difference. My subconscious thinks, this is happening. So-and-so did say this. And like all of a sudden my stress hormones go up and I'm like in an adrenaline, like fight or flight. I'm like, yeah, you gonna have a problem with the changes? And then they're like, no, that's a great idea. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, cool. Like, so we hype ourselves up for like things that don't matter, is my point. So level-headed, be grateful towards that criticism. And then also, if you're smart, you'll harness that criticism and kind of this provocateur kind of mindset, right? I mean, Derek Legg, one of our clients, he had a clip talking about a very sensitive topic, the LGBTQ community. And he said he put something out there and it was just, in fact, it was me on his podcast. And he kind of backed me up on it. But anyway, very controversial. And it blew up. I think it got 2 or 3 million views on Facebook. But big thing. And a lot of people were commenting and a lot of hate. And we just laughed because we understood that was an inflammatory topic. And we both spoke from the heart about some things, and the universe doesn't like that shit. But we use that. Like, you can kind of gamify it. There are people that just take content and they just kind of flip it up they just like insult people. They're professional provocateurs. And for growing a following and getting the algorithm to catch your shit, it's a viable tactic. It works. No matter how much dishonor you think it's viable. Everything is viable in the game of life. Just because I have a standards, like, and someone else is out there selling feet pics and making millions, I'm like, but I have standards about my feet. I shouldn't shit on that. Like, they're making millions. Like, I think there's an important line for your morals, and there is lines in the sand. I think there's consequences for that on a grand scheme, but as far as like topics, you don't have to avoid how you feel about a topic because you're afraid of backlash from the internet. That's my point. You can actually harness that criticism. If you get good at handling the criticism in your content, you can get really good at instigating it and creating opportunities for you to be criticized, or the topic or the opinion to be, and then it just is boosting your content. So now your message is in front of more people. So the moral of the story is make people criticize you. Get better at it. Let it go. So that's about all I had today for the Content Factory. It was just something that is inevitable with life, is the criticism. And if you're in the content game, if you're going to put content out there, there's always going to be someone that has a critique for you. And there's always room for improvement. So they kind of go hand in hand. They're perfect for each other. It just comes back to the fact, are you avoiding criticism? Do you avoid criticism in your daily life? You probably shouldn't. And then if you're going to do content, you definitely shouldn't. You should embrace that stuff because it's going to come. It's going to come your way. But that's it for Content Factory today. Mal, you got anything you want to
add? You're wonderful. And
Thank you.
I'm grateful for you.
I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for all of our employees. If you're watching this, I'm grateful for Anna. Thank you for cutting these clips. We kind of get this to you in a last minute fashion sometimes because of the workflow. So we appreciate you. And Christmas, Merry Crimbus. Kringus is coming up. Merry Kringle, everybody.
Merry Chrysler.
Merry Chrysler. Happy Chrysler.
It's Christmas.
Christmas. That's it from us. This has been your Content Factory. Again, we are the foundation for your content creation. Keep tuning in. We got a lot of big things coming up soon. And that's all. I'm out of here. Peace.